Warning, this show has outdated attitudes, language, and views which may cause offense today. If you don't like it, suck it.
This video is not intended for children. Viewer discretion is advised.
If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Mornings of Mischief. I'm your host, Stone Loki. Good morning, Adega Outlaw, Dave Bob, Lori Roberts, the Destructor is here, ladies and gentlemen. Purple Valkyrie and Samantha Joe, the Valkyries are here. Kronos, Rosetta Allen. Good morning, Rosetta. Good morning, Chris Persia, the Wrench of Wrenches is here. Colin P. Smith, Heiress of Chaos, the Battle Angel is here. Project Story Time. Good morning, brother. Hey, everybody lurking today. Have a great stream, Loki. We will, brother. We will. Trinoculus P. Good morning. Jester of Sin. Jedi Bill 797. Good morning, Bill. Gun Bunny. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Mary's Game Room, Mark the Infinitely Tired, Gun Bunny, Robert Pearson, Colin P. Smith. I probably said him already. Lord Thoth, good morning. Good morning, everybody. I hope you guys are having a great Wednesday so far. It is time to wake up, rise and shine, rise and shine. No, that's coming up with the Valkyries. Oh, shit. Derek McManus, good morning. Good morning, guys. Mountains of Elysium, greetings. Greetings, Mountains of Elysium. Lady Miss, the Guardian of the Void, is here. Good morning, Nina Green. Guys, thank you all so very much for being here. Good morning. How are you doing? I cannot wait to get this thing going. So, what is going on out there? Well, of course, the news broke. Netflix has been indicted in the state of Texas for their release of the movie that I'm not going to name. Hooties. I'll call it Hooties because it's not the other word. We can call it Mignonias or Hooties. And you know, I've heard so many excuses. I have seen so many excuses from so many blue check marks out there defending this movie, talking about how we simply don't understand. We don't understand. We're not French, so we can't understand this movie. And good morning, Jeff Franklin. I see you, brother. Yes, Derek McManus, all hail the great state of Texas. God bless Texas. Meow, 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 meow. So, what exactly did they do? I'm going to share a picture here. Let's see. Where is it? Why is it not here? Well, There it is. All right. So, for those of you who can't see it, let me read it to you. In the 1A District Court of Tyler County, State of Texas, the State of Texas versus Netflix Incorporated, 100 Winchester Circle, Los Gatos, California, 95032, USA. Cause number 13731, bond not available. Charge, promotion of lewd visual material depicting children. Indictment, in the name and by authority of the State of Texas Grand Jury for Tyler County, Texas, duly selected, impaneled, sworn, charged, and organized as such at the January term AD 2020 of the 1A District Court for said county. Upon their oaths present in and to said court at said term that Netflix Incorporated hereinafter styled defendant on or about the 15th day of September. It was on the 15th of September. Why are we only hearing about this now? Because this is public record. That's why. And before the presentment of this indictment in the county and state aforesaid did then and there knowingly promote visual material which depicts the lewd exhibition of yada 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 of a clothed or partially clothed child who was younger than 18 years of age at the time the visual material was created, which appeals to the prurient interest in, that word, and has no serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value, to wit, by issuing or selling or providing or delivering or distributing or disseminating or transmitting or publishing or exhibiting or presenting or advertising the film titled Hooties, also known as Mignones, or offering or agreeing to issue, sell, provide, deliver, distribute, disseminate, transmit, publish, exhibit, present, or advertise said film, and the promotion of said film was authorized or recklessly tolerated by a highly managerial agent of Netflix Incorporated, namely Wilmot Reed Hastings Jr. or Theodore Anthony Sarandos Jr., acting in behalf of Netflix Incorporated and within the scope of the agent's office or employment at Netflix Incorporated against the peace and dignity of the state. And Kapla, Bird of Prey 5, welcome. Welcome. So, this is true. It's true. All of it. I remember hearing that before. It's true. All of it. What does this mean for Netflix? Well, Netflix stock dropped sharply as soon as information was released. Does that mean they're out of business? No, far from it. But they are not backing down. Their response was swift. And they basically said, eat a bag of D's because we're not taking it down, which they have been told to do. Their board was told to keep the movie up. Isn't that interesting? So, what's going to happen now? Netflix has released a statement. Let me get it up here really quick. All of this comes down to, this is not what they say it is. Instead of being a deeply feminist, blah, 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 blah. Let's see. This film could have been a powerful rebuke of popular culture that's, children and robs them of their innocence. But these young actresses were just, in the making of this movie. Let's see. Netflix responded to the indictment stating, Cuties is a social commentary against the exploitation of young children. This charge is without merit, and we stand by the film. Of course they do. Of course they do. They stand by the film. It's art. It's art, ladies and gentlemen. You don't understand the mind of the French. You don't understand how we view film and how we view 11-year-old girls. I mean, by the time they're 10, they're old enough to marry and have children, which is complete horseshit. That is not the way it works in France. That is not the way it works anywhere. Fat Steven Skull 8, J.J. Abrams. I even rescanned that piece of garbage. It's not art. It's nothing even close to art. No, it's not. It's not. It's we all know what it is. It's a P movie. It's what it is. Yes, Chris Persia. Yes, Chris Persia is correct, ladies and gentlemen. And it makes a very good point. Loki, I don't recall the names of the movies, but apparently Netflix has other movies that are more questionable than Hootie's. And these are apparently still up last week. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And Pat Steven Skull 8, J.J. Abrams, yes. That's exactly what it is. It's showgirls for, yeah. Yep. Here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. Even if they are indicted, even if this goes to court, even if they lose, nothing is going to happen. This movie's not going to be taken down. They can shut off Netflix for the entire state of Texas, which is what I heard was going to happen unless they take the movie down, is that they'll just flip a switch and Netflix will not be available in the state of Texas. Now, are there ways around that? Of course there are. You can get by that with a VPN, but will they make it a crime to have Netflix in the state? Is this going to affect someone that's just trying to watch a series? Is this going to affect, how is this going to affect everyday people that say, screw it, we're going to find a way around it and watch it anyway? Not that movie, but Netflix itself. A lot of people have canceled Netflix recently. A lot of people have walked away. I walked away from Netflix at the beginning of this year. I said, no, I'm not going to pay all this money to have this programming that is increasingly moving to one side. And see, that's the problem at the time. That's the way I looked at it. It is moving completely to one side. It is amazing how many people on one side are defending this movie and how we are being told that this is just a radical portion of a certain side that doesn't want this movie around. That's not true. That is not true. Let me tell you something. When moderates, people in the middle, find out about this movie and find out what it's exactly about, and they see it, it's sickening. Any normal human being would find this sickening. If you do not find it sickening, am I saying you are not a normal human being? Yeah, pretty much. It's sick. If you've seen it, it's sick. I saw it. It's sick. That's the only way you can review something is by seeing it. All those people out there saying if you can't review it if you haven't seen it. You can't talk about it if you haven't seen it. Well, I saw it. Let me tell you something. It's sick. Doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. Doesn't matter what political leanings you're on. Exploiting children is wrong. Anybody who disagrees with that, you've got a bigger problem than listening to me. You've got a bigger problem than hanging out on this channel listening to me. Go fix your shit. Go get with a therapist. Because if you defend this movie, if you sit there and say you just don't understand, you don't understand, it's a French thing. Go see a fucking therapist. Go get some fucking help. Go out there and talk to somebody and get a fucking reality check. Because let me tell you something. Them zooming in on the areas they zoomed in at while I was watching this shit. Only a sick fucking bastard does that. Only a really sick piece of fucking work does that shit like that. I don't care if it was the editor. I don't care if it was the filmographer. I don't care if it was the damn man behind the camera. I don't give a shit if it was the director. Anybody who did this is a sick ass son of a bitch. From the director on down. You do not do this. This is not the way you prevent something like this. Oh, hey, kids, you know what? I'm Smokey the Bear, and I'm telling you to prevent forest fires and to prove to you that you need to go out and you need to prevent forest fires. I'm going to set the biggest fucking fire I possibly can and watch the whole fucking world burn just to teach you that you need to prevent forest fires. What a giant fucking pile of horse shit. What a giant pile of fucking horse shit. You do not prevent something like this by making it. And whoever tells you otherwise is blowing so much smoke up your ass. They've got to be a chimney, folks. They have to be a chimney because no normal, regular, everyday human being would believe this shit. And Scott Mendelson, you lying sack of shit, I know you get paid. I know you get paid for sitting there and doing your reviews and being like, look at us, we're reviewers, and we get money to go down on our knees and suck green booby milk. Because that's what we do. All of you blue check mark pieces of shit out there that tell me you just don't understand, Loki. You just don't understand. This is a French film. It's art. She's an artist, and she deserves 20 million rewards for making this giant steaming pile of shit. No, blue check marks. You don't understand. You see, there are people in this world that watch this and they like it. They like it. And I thought my jokes were bad. They actually like it. And you're defending that. And you're defending them. You're defending them. You're defending each and every one of them. And if that's what you want to do, if you want to get their little flag incorporated into this world and into all of this, then why don't you just come out and say it? Why don't you have the balls to come out and tell each and every one of us that we should be okay with this, that we should be totally cool with this, because that's what you're doing. You just don't have the balls to come out and say it. This is not a French thing. This isn't a culture gap. They're 11-year-old girls. And Nicole, the blind mage, says it best. Well, it's not French. Only sick people that are beaten up in prison would enjoy it because they have a sick thing for, yeah, they do. That they do. Oh, and welcome, Psychodorf 9. Welcome to the party, sir. So, Texas has indicted them. Texas has thrown down the gauntlet. Texas has said, you shall not pass. And I hope that they completely and totally ban them in Texas. I hope they show to the rest of the world that this is not acceptable. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. They have started to make, time to start Valhalla Productions. Oh yes, it's already underway. Project Storytime. Indeed, it is. Other states need to follow suit. Yes. Yes, sir. They do. Indeed, they do. This needs to be a rallying cry for what not to do. This needs to be the rallying cry that gets everyone's attention. Vigilante Williamson, 650 girls casting call for one character, meaning more were in the call for the rest of the cast. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. We've gone over that. We went over this weeks ago when all this broke. Over a month ago. Oh, yeah. Yes, he did. Rambling Canuck. Loki, I do believe Vlad the Impaler had a perfectly good seat for these morons. It will give them a spike in their ratings. Oh, yes, it would. Yes, it would. What does it mean for our society as a whole? What does it mean for us as a people? What does it mean for the human fucking race when this is allowed? I don't give a shit what excuse you want to make. I don't give a shit what you want to call it. I don't care if you want to make a damn YouTube video and sit there and defend this fucking giant pile of shit and say, oh, well, it's art, Loki. It's art. You don't understand the French. The French are different. Oh, they're adults at 11 years old. No. Shut your fucking pie hole. No, it's not. It's not art. And it's not okay. And anybody out there with a decent head on their shoulder would see that. Anyone out there with one moral fiber to their being would see that this is sick ass trash. You want to make an argument? Well, let me give you an argument here. We already know about forest fires, right? Listen, kids, do not create forest fires. I'm Smokey the Bear, and I'm going to light a fire that's going to burn up all of Canada and the United States just to teach you kids not to make forest fires. It doesn't work. An agenda has been played, and it's been played two ways. Number one, it has been played to stoke defense on one side of the aisle. It's all political. It's all political. The people that want to get away with this are using you. They are using you to get away with it. And it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop until you wake the hell up and figure this out. They're going to sit there and they're going to say, this is all because the other side of the fence has a problem with it. It's not a bad movie. It's not a bad movie. Watch it. Cry like we did. Cry when those girls are up on stages. Cry with happiness that they're shooting their tatas in front of God and everybody as we do close camera work on the angles. Close camera work on the angles of their bodies. So you pieces of shit that defend this movie, you know what? You want to say, oh, you haven't watched it? No, bitches. You haven't watched it. Or you're one of those. You're a P. You're the P word. You know what? I'll just say it. You're a fucking pedo. That's it. That's it. Because if you've actually watched this, if you've actually watched this movie and you turn around and you defend it, I can't see any other thing. I can't see any other way. I can't see any other excuse. Alabrain Imakara, I hope I said your name correctly. I only had to describe this movie to my mom, and she was angry, crying, and ready to kick Netflix in the balls and strangle the parents who let this happen. Guess what? The parents can't let it happen. The parents could sign away the parental rights to let them make the movie. They could not sign an agreement that said you can exploit my child. Yep, James Andrew Morrison. That they are. That they are. You know, this is not how this works. You can't say, well, if you're on our side of the political spectrum, then you have to defend this movie. Because I see it. I see the check marks. savagely defend this movie. You haven't seen it. You can't talk about it. You haven't seen it. If you had seen it, you'd know it's a good, wholesome. No, bitches. Oh, it's a cultural difference. No, bitches. It's 11-year-old girls. Oh, well, Loki, you don't understand. You know what, everyone? I'm not going to be popular for saying this, but it's a French thing. No, sorry. It's not. It's not. I don't care what the fuck age a country says a girl is an adult in. A girl is not an adult and grown at 11 years old. I don't give a fuck where you're from. I don't give a fuck what your law is. I don't give a fuck if they marry them all by the dozen there. It's wrong. WRONG. Oh, well, you're not respecting their culture, Loki. You're an ist and an obe, and oh, we've heard this before. We've heard all this before, haven't we, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, there you go. Boom. Yep. Somebody defends this piece of trash film. Exactly. Of course they do. I know exactly who it is, too. I know exactly who it is. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny that I know exactly who did it, too? Because I know who came out publicly and defended this movie when everyone was trashing it, when everyone was saying, what the fuck, when everyone was saying it has to be taken down. I know who came out and said, you just don't get it. It's a culture thing. It's a French thing. So welcome to Mornings of Mischief. Welcome. Welcome back. I know, because I had it out with this person. How do you fucking say that? How do you fucking say that it's a French thing? How do you say it's a culture thing? I've heard every excuse in the book defending this movie. Every excuse in the book, from blue check marks on down. And none of them make a damn bit of sense. None of them explain why they've got 11-year-old girls on film dancing and twerking and having close-ups of their hips and close-ups of other body areas and taking pictures of their hoo-has, all for a film that shouldn't exist. It shouldn't have been allowed to go to print. This film should have never been filmed. But even if it was, someone out there in their right mind at Netflix would have said, we can't do this, right? We can't do this. Apparently not, Psychodorf 9. Apparently the French are allowed to do whatever they damn well please because it's a French thing. Oh, you just don't understand. It's a French thing, okay? You don't get the fact that this is all part of the French culture. No, it's not. No, it's not. Any sane woman driving around wouldn't stop and take thousands of photographs and video without parental permission, mind you, because this was before the film was approved to be made. This was before the casting calls. This woman, the woman that directed this, the woman that made this, rode around and took pictures of kids in the street and video in the street. It's a fact. She admitted it. She admitted it in her interview for Netflix. So, how do you explain that? How do you explain a woman running around France, taking pictures of children, taking video of children? How does that work? How does that work? I'd like to welcome my guest this morning. You guys know her. You love her. She is the queen of kicking ass on Twitter. Lady Gravemaster.
Good morning, Loki. Good morning, everyone. Hello.
I hope you don't
Sorry.
mind that I burned some shit down before you got in here.
Oh, that is perfectly fine. There is plenty to burn and then some.
Can you believe I got a downvote for this? I got a downvote for talking about protecting children. I love that. I absolutely love that.
Honestly, quite frankly, if anybody is willing to sell their soul for this film, if that's what we're going to call it, I'd say go ahead and let them, because the evidence is clearly visible for anyone with eyes and a soul. So, screw them. The reactions on Twitter were enough to tell me that this is a year. It makes me curious, if this film had come out in any other year, would it be this hyper politicized, or is it strictly because it's an election year? Because the fact that there are people who lean a certain way, who have a problem with this, they're being told by other people on their same side that this is the alt-right that have a problem with it, and you're buying into the conspiracy theories.
Yep.
That tells me all I need to know. If there are people who lean that way, who see this for what it is, and they're being told that if you dislike this film, you are an enemy of our side. Like, are you serious right now?
Yeah.
There's not even, and I will use the Star Wars fandom because it seems like the perfect comparison. With before the Disney disastrous trilogy, you had prequel stands and you had original stands, and it's a good chance that people who liked the prequels really enjoyed the OT too. They just liked the prequel a little bit more, and people who liked the OT, they'd give the prequels crap, but they were like, it actually added to the story. It didn't completely destroy the universe that it was a part of. They just had maybe some issues with like a character or some CGI or whatever, but everybody pretty much agrees, oh man, the lightsaber battles though, the choreography, fantastic. So like everybody found common ground. In the Star Wars fandom, even though they had like their hyper preferences, their hyper differences, and they were like, you can't be a Star Wars fan if you like the prequels, or you can't be a Star Wars fan if you only like the original trilogy, right?
Right.
And now you've arrived at this piece of garbage that doesn't belong in any genre other than child exploitation pornography. And there's an entire side telling everybody on that side that if you dislike this film, you go over there because you're alt-right. It makes no sense. I tweeted this out weeks ago. Netflix has ostracized and alienated far more people than any conspiracy theory nut job ever could. By doubling down on this, by not backing down, by claiming that they always had the children in mind, that the parents had informed consent, and we'll get to that in a second. That these children were doing this to show, and I heard when I was backstage for a second, you don't set a fire to prove that setting fires is bad. And that's exactly the point. Mandy Moore was playing a high school student until she was like 30. So to tell me that who looked younger is absolutely false. And because this is an international film and people are like, oh, well, French laws, French this, French the other. That's not what they're not. That's why the indictment is worded the way that it is. They are not getting Netflix for having produced it in France. They are getting them because the production was dispersed via their platform in the States, and it violates several laws. And also, I'll be interested to see what the Discovery digs up. I mean, we already know that. So be it. Exactly, Purple Valkyrie. The idea that there were 630 girls just for the main role, it's going to be interesting. Are we going to get to, like, are they going to be able to see the audition tapes? Are they going to get to go through the notes and the processes that the casting agency or the casting agent or the director or whoever was on the team to do the casting, are we going to get to see what their process was, what their notes were, like where they were going? Because that's going to tell you a lot about intent. Because I don't know how much everybody knows, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And so while the product is clearly explicit and definitely highlights those areas on the girls and puts them in very provocative dance moves and suggestions, and at one point it's in front of a grown male who's like into it, and it's all just disgusting. The discovery process is going to be what's really interesting. This got brought up in one of Gary's chats, because this is going to help either strengthen or weaken the intent.
Yeah, and I want to see the pre-work. She talked about the pre-work she did. She talked about how for a year she went out and took photos and took video of girls on the street. I want to see the pre-work she did. I want to see the work she did before they had the green light and the budget to do this. Not just, I mean, what you bring up is completely valid, and I completely agree with you, Lady Gravemaster. I just want to see that too.
Oh, for sure. Because
did those parents get permission? Did those girls understand what they were doing? Did they get the weight of, well, we were the prototype for this giant pile of shit?
Indeed. I think I believe that would probably be part of the discovery process, because she gave that up freely in an interview where she was very inconsistent. I don't know how many of you have read that or watched the YouTube clip of it, but she sits down and she, like, first it's about how the story is based on her past experiences, and then it's, I was inspired for this film when I saw these young girls doing this, and so I went around and did all of this research, like you were saying, Loki. And then she pivots back to how I went through this stuff when I was younger. And so, like, she's really inconsistent about even her backstory for where the inspiration, quote unquote, comes for this film. Lori Roberts, that makes me really mad. Don't tell me that stuff.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what it is, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot confirm this. This is a rumor, but this is the information that has been presented to me. They have been hit up with a huge cash infusion and told, keep the movie on your programming. Keep the movie on the site. Huge cash infusion. Board's going to keep the movie on it. I can't see how this is not telling when they are being injected with cash just to keep this movie on their service. Defend it, protect it, keep it on there, and they're being kept afloat.
Sorry, I was trying to look at the stock price. 1 sec.
It's okay. Lori Roberts got it. It's up $18. Maybe a short squeeze. Yeah, and Chronos too. It's called shorting, I believe.
Yeah. So as everybody knows, yesterday the whole overall the stock market took a dip because of POTUS's announcement, but Netflix got hit hardest, which tells me that somebody in Hollywood, they can't help bail out the theaters, they can't help bail out their own productions, they can't, help support any of these other things that Hollywood depends on. No. But these pricks can go ahead and funnel money to save this production, whether it be through paying for legal fees or
Yeah. And his list was pretty extensive.
Yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, I don't know. My best bet is everybody bought it because it went down, and then they're gonna sell it. Like you said, I mean, they're shorting it. I don't know. Yes, I'm very inclined to burn down the windmill.
Oh yeah. We love fire here in Valhalla, don't we?
Indeed. I just don't.
Indeed, yes.
I
Sorry.
don't.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're good. I just this, like, there's very few things that I get legitimately angry about, but this is definitely one of them because it makes me curious. The story is about, an immigrant girl and everything like that, but what, like, how many child traffickers brought girls through those auditions? You know what I mean? Like, this movie, when you think of the sets and the production and everything like that, this movie provides perfect opportunity and cover for all of that nonsense.
Yes.
And they can say as much as they want that it's a commentary against what it's showing, but I saw none of that. There's no consequence in this film. There's no, at one point she straight up tries to murder a girl.
Yep. Yep. And no, there's no consequence because she goes back to exactly how it was before. She does not change in any way, shape, or form. She does not learn anything. She does not get in trouble. She does not get reprimanded. And the director straight up has stated this is pretty much based on her own life experience. And there's a problem. Adega earlier, let me see if I can find it, made a very, very keen observation. There is a real chance that most of the defenders and makers of this film have been so abused and exposed to this disgusting world of perversion that they are completely incapable of seeing how wrong they are. They have convinced themselves that they are in the right, and anyone who speaks out against this is completely in the wrong.
Yep. Cycle of abuse.
Yes.
That's all this movie did, is just contribute to that.
It's there's a term I used to use when I was doing drug counseling, and it was called breaking the chains that bind you. And you grow up and you're in this house where, let's say, your father or mother does substance abuse and physically harms you, and you're like, I hate it. I hate this. I'm never going to be like this. When I grow up, I'm never going to be like this with my kids. And they end up turning it into exactly what their parents did. The idea is to break that chain, to stop it from continuing, because you do it to your kids, they do it to their kids, and on and so forth and so forth and so forth. You have to want to see that this is wrong.
Exactly. Sorry that,
No, you're fine.
Lots, unfortunately, more than ever, I would say, lots of children are going through that same cycle of abuse. And it's the fact that you can even look at it another way. And, there is a saying that certain people like to use, where never let a good crisis go to waste. And this is a legitimate crisis, and it's facing our youth. And the fact that Hollywood is going to exploit that for money, it proves that not only does Hollywood not care about these children, that Netflix doesn't care about these children or any children, and this wasn't a commentary against anything. This was a high project story time. This was someone who has a very depraved
and disturbed view of the world, and thought that they would cash in on it and utilize it to push another agenda further and to add another letter to the alphabet community. And everybody that I know in the alphabet community hates that letter. They hate it. They're like, we don't want it. It has nothing to do with us. They don't deserve to be considered part of our community. And so for anybody to say, well, it's just a disease. It's they're misunderstood. They struggle every day, with this. And the new line that is being pushed is that if there's genuine feeling and care for the children, it's not that bad. It's okay. Like, what? Excuse me? The law that passed in California that you can be within 10 years of the minor and not have to register. That means
horseshit.
That means a 19-year-old can be with a 9-year-old. Are you serious right now? This isn't like someone who is 50 and 40 or 30 and 40 or 35 and 40. This isn't, when people are like, age is just a number. They're talking way, way out. Like, way out. I have an aunt and uncle who are 10 years apart, but they met when she was 25.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference. It's not like she was 15 and he was 25. No. And that whole 10 years in between was a massive amount of maturity occurring for both of them. And so to sit there and defend this nonsense because you see what's coming down the pipeline. I don't know what that Ghislaine Maxwell has on these people, but whatever it is, it has scared them enough to make them fast pedal for this cliff. Like, they're not slowly turning up the temperature of the water on the frogs anymore. They're not trying to be sneaky. No, they are straight up they're showing us their hand. They're like, hey, this is where we want to go. This is what we want. We want the kids. It was always about getting to the kids. And what, 6 years ago, 6.5 years ago, when people were like, this is a slippery slope. Don't be doing this. This isn't okay. This is going to open the door for so much more. And we get told that, no, the slippery slope is a fallacy. The slippery slope isn't real. That's not going to happen. This is just because, they're people and they deserve this too. And that's fine. But I've had friends, one of my husband's best friend from college, told us that they were trans. And I was like, well, I said, how we feel about it? I said, but, I'll respect you. Just tell me what you want me to call you. And, I'll show you the human decency of respect. Just don't compel me to say something that I'm not comfortable with. And friend was like, okay, sure, fine, not a problem. Like, we still hang out, we still talk. They came back and they were like, I was so happy when all of this passed and everything started moving. But had I known that this was going to come about, I would go back and undo it all. And I'm like, it's not like we didn't tell.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, you're good. I'm done.
You remember when Scarlett Johansson was going to play that trans role, and basically all that fire, that wasn't even the trans community that did that. It wasn't them. We were told it was them, but it wasn't them that was harassing her. It wasn't them sending in letters. It wasn't them screaming. It was a certain section of the political party that had a problem with it. It was the same people that call us ISOs, Yahtzees, just for saying we don't like something. It's the same group. It is one small group screaming at the top of their lungs that we must have our way and we won't be happy till we have our way. And no, I've done the same thing you have. I've talked to community. I've reached out to the community. I have friends in that community, and they say exactly what you're saying. We don't want anything to do with that. That's not what we're about. But they want that letter. That group wants that letter thrown in with the LGBTQ plus, which just seems to keep getting longer and longer, because it solidifies them and makes them a part of that community, and they can use that to push their agenda and get what they want. Well, you can't come after us because we're in this huge community now.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's, you know, I guarantee you Netflix did this, and she was a Muslim woman of color. They were like, this is perfect. She's like, if anybody touches us, we can call them ists and phobes.
That's right.
It's the same strategy. They keep using it because people keep letting them. Like, if people would just flat out say, no, you're wrong. And like everybody's like, yeah, you know, vote with your wallet and the silent majority. Like, the movie theaters were dying because it wasn't genuine. It genuinely was not movie theaters' fault that movie theaters were dying. And you want to know where the proof of that is? Joker is proof of that. Movie theaters have been in decline since about 2014. We still had some good shows coming out, but Endgame wouldn't have made the money it made if theaters were really dead. If nobody wanted to go to a theater, if everybody was just going to wait for it to be on demand or on VHS, on DVD, you know, then Endgame wouldn't have made that theater movie. It's not the theater's fault. So the theater is it's just a distribution area, and people are only going to come and see what they want to see. And so it's not the movie theater's fault that they were dying. Now, granted, it wasn't helped that, you know, I know that they don't make very much off tickets. Like when Odin was explaining how much they actually make off ticket sales,
Yeah.
my head almost exploded. I was like, are you serious? No wonder popcorn is like $30 for a small. But, you know, when you think of it in that perspective, you're like, okay, so this movie theater has to pay its staff, has to pay for the license to show the film, it has to pay for the utilities, it has to rent out the space of the building that it's using. Like, dang, you know, you really feel for some of the theaters. Now, I don't.
Have you ever been in an Alamo? Have you ever been in an Alamo theater?
No.
They've got merch. They've got T-shirts. They've got mugs. They've got cups. They've got movie props. They've got records. They've got meals. They've got all this extra stuff. And yeah, the food costs more. Obviously, you get a pizza there. It's like $16, and it's the size of your fist compared to spending $18 for a 16-inch somewhere. But
yeah.
It's the experience. And Alamo Draft House, I absolutely love them. But they have a wide variety of things, and this is all to make up for ticket sales that they make shit on, especially when it's a Disney movie.
Oh yeah,
because Disney takes the majority of the money. It takes more money than everyone else. Every other production company out there, Paramount, it doesn't matter who it was, Fox, they all took a less cut of the pie so the theater could make a little bit. And Disney's like, no, bitch, we want it all.
Terms, I can't wait for number 12 because fourth quarter numbers are going to drop, and Disney has kicked this can down the road far enough. I know you've covered it. Like, they just cut 28,000 people a month after they took back their salaries. So no, just absolutely not concessions where the money's at. Yep, like I said, $30 for a bucket of popcorn. But you know, like you said, Loki, it's the experience. You get to go. It's you get to enjoy going out. You get to enjoy the huge big screen. You get, like before surround sound was especially a thing. Like you get to be really immersed in the film that you're watching, and you get to enjoy it. And you have so much that you can like talk about, and then you leave the theater and you're like, what did you think? Well, what did you think? And it's like, well, I really like this. Oh, I hated that part, but I loved this. And so like it creates discussion, it creates buzz, and that's how you build a fan base if it's not already based off of a novel or a comic book or anything. If it doesn't have any pre-existing source material, as much as if it claims to not have any pre-existing source material. Kathleen Kennedy, looking at you.
Yep.
So you really get to get involved in the experience and in the film, and and theaters are dying because Hollywood's not putting anything out worth watching. Joker made $1 billion without China because it was a good film and people wanted to see it.
And isn't it amazing when we find out that Warner Brothers didn't make back shit on that movie because the investors had to be paid, and the investors were the ones who paid that, and Warner Brother didn't pay almost a dime to make that movie. It's crazy. Oh well, we've got to pay our investors back who we owe all this money to now. And I'm like, wait a minute, you made $1 billion on that movie and you barely made anything. And Pat Steven Seagal, who ate J.J. Abrams, sends a $2 Canadian super chat. This burrito thong has a spice to my step. Hi, lady. Thank you so very much. He's a wonderful. He's so wonderful. He is so wonderful. Fat Steven is a great guy. He's one of the best. He works for Brianna Creel. She pays him in nuggets, chicken nuggets. Great guy. Absolutely wonderful guy.
Chicken nuggets, coffee milk. Good stuff. No, but yeah, the fact that we can like laugh at them. I don't see community being built around cute. Like I don't see a fan. I don't see like, you know, nobody. This is the other thing that's funny. You know, how much Raylo art have you seen out there? Fan art, like it never ends. It just keeps coming. Like nobody's making fan art of this movie. Nobody's doing fanfics of this movie. They're simply just defending the film. So this film has no fan base. It has no artistic interest or any kind of igniting of any type of base, except people who have souls don't like it. And I don't know if the people defending it have souls or not, but I'm going to go with they need to go get it cleaned if they're defending this film. Yes, you can get paid in nuggets. But,
so
you know,
I'll tell you something. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Please finish.
Oh no, I was gonna say, like, you see the Raylo art everywhere. I still see prequel, like you've got Darth Vader fan. I mean, you get Star Wars fan art, you get Indiana Jones fan art, you've got Harry Potter fan art, you have communities, you have book clubs, you have quizzes, you have what house do you belong to, which Indiana Jones film would you belong in, what's your would you be a Sith or would you be a Jedi or would you be neither? Would you just be a rebel or would you be part of the Empire? Would you be a Star Trooper? You know, like you have all of these things that are built out from these communities. My God, Lord of the Rings, Tolkien, like that base is so incredible. Like it's massive, and there are people who have seen the films and read the trilogy, and they've read the Silmarillion, and they've read other works. They've read all, like the Second Age, what's called, and just all of these things. They've read Tom Shippey's essays and his books on it. They've read other Tolkienite stuff on it. It's huge. You have board games, you have card games, you have fan art, you have fanfic, you've got fan films. I mean, it's insane the amount of excitement that is still generated by some of these IPs that are legitimately timeless. And even with all the damage that has been done by the Disney trilogy, you can still find excitement for what it was originally, for before all of the damage that happened. You can still find that excitement, that buzz, and that joy. There's nothing like that from Cuties. And people are like, oh, well, it's just one film. It's not this at all, ever. No. But if you want to talk about films that were standalone, and then you can look at the Joker, and they're like, oh well, it's in the Batman universe, but that film is as it sits right now. It's a standalone film. It's still talked about. It's still one of the best films. Probably, I think it was one of the best films in 2019, and
yes,
it just proved that if you do it right, you can make a singular film a monolith and something that others strive for and that look up to. And the fact that these people are saying there's all of this excitement, there's this, it's starting a movement in the community, and it's really showing this through this different lens, and it's proving that child exploitation is bad. I'm going to quote as, like, normal people don't need to be told that exploiting children is a bad thing. This film is gratuitous, not a warning.
I absolutely agree.
Why is everybody saying I'm a robot?
Oh, because you were roboting just a little bit. You were roboting. Your voice was roboting. Like you had a little bit of a bad connection.
One of my wires came loose. I mean, what?
It's okay. It's all right.
Sorry, but you were going to say something.
Oh, but yeah. Before we get out of here, I wanted to tell you this, and you know that I worked I was involved with the correction system.
Yes.
Okay, so imagine this. Imagine a 22-year-old gentleman who was put in jail for aggravated sexual assault of a minor. Actually, it was his 8-year-old brother. He got 2 years for that. 2 years. He wasn't all there because his father almost beat him to death with a baseball bat when he found out. His father got 10 years.
What?
Yeah, for attempted murder, assault. It was multiple charges. While this 22-year-old gentleman got 2 years for sexual aggravated assault of a minor. That means that this was not something he just did. That was it's violent assault. But he got 2 years. His dad got 10 years. Welcome to the justice system.
Yeah. Anybody that sexually assaults or exploits or abuses children deserves the rack. Or, quartering is fine. I'm good with that.
Well, in that indictment, it actually says, unless this is or maybe it was in the article that I was reading. Hold on 1 second. Unless this was a first offense.
It's not, though.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, big mouth.
This gets busted down to a third degree.
Yeah.
It gets busted down to the lightest charge. If it is a second offense, a third offense, then of course it gets more and more and more serious. I am a firm believer in no tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things you just don't have any tolerance. No tolerance policy. If you are found guilty of a crime like this, there should be no, well, if it's your first offense, this, if it's your no.
Yeah, this isn't some 12-year-old stealing candy from the store. This is a 12-year-old being abused and exploited. And the thing is, people are saying that nothing's gonna come of this. They've been indicted, but nothing's gonna happen. But the fact that Netflix has gone about this the way that they have, they've opened themselves up to several more charges being filed. And, the director can play all coy and innocent and shocked. But here's the thing. If she knew, if we follow their logic, just stick with me here because this is going to get really spaghetti looped, but this is the best I can do with their logic. So it's a commentary against sexually exploiting children and the hypersexualization of young girls. Okay, that is your framing. This is supposed to be a commentary against that. So you knew that this could be perceived as hypersexualizing the girls because you wanted to show the damage that it could cause, even though that damage was never shown. It may have been inferred, but it was never shown. So the moral of your story was never presented. However, the ill effects, we'll say, the abuse, the near homicide, all of that was on display several times, verbally, visually, wasn't insinuated, it wasn't inferred, it was blatant. It was on there on the screen. And I got into and so if you were doing a commentary against this, that means you knew that within the context of this film, that this was the hypersexualizing of girls to show that it was bad. Even though you never showed it was bad, you did show the hypersexualization of the girls. That's their logic, not mine.
And it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, so that's following their own logic path. That's their whole comment. Oh, well, it's a commentary against it, and we had to show just how bad it was. Oh, so you're admitting that you showed it because you wanted it to be a commentary against it. They have literally admitted this. And so now they're going to have to do backtracking and backpedaling and tons of gaslighting. But anybody with 2 eyes and a brain can see what this is. It's just the question of what state your soul is in, of whether you're defending this or not. And minors can't consent. Plain and simple. It doesn't matter how informed you make them. They are minors. They can't consent. And if the parents did not have informed consent, I'm extremely curious to see what sort of agreements they signed. That should be coming up in the discovery as well. So anybody who says that nothing's going to come of this, first of all, the fact that Texas, it's always Texas. God bless Texas.
Yeah, God bless Texas.
The fact that Texas came out swinging like this, I mean, that should be more than enough for people to see that this is wrong. And because Netflix didn't want to do the right thing, because Netflix didn't want to have any type of moral or ethical standard when it came to this, the government had to step in. Now, Gary brought this up too, where, you know, the government should never be in charge of our morality, ever.
No.
But the fact that they have to come forward with pre-existing laws to protect these kids because Netflix, a corporation, is refusing to abide by their own ethics, their own vision and mission statements, and, you know, the prerequisites set forth by all companies with fiduciary responsibility and this expectation of some type of moral check in place. They're refusing to do all of those. So now the government has had to step in. And when that happens, you know, everybody's really excited for this. Like, as long as it doesn't go further than this. But the thing is, we've seen it with the lockdowns. Now, it is Texas, so, you know, I don't see any blue states gonna go forward and indict Netflix. I don't see that happening.
No.
And so I'm not saying that Texas is going to go for a power grab after this, but this is going to set precedent. And down the road, if you know, this starts to be the catalyst for new legislation, that could cause problems on its own. Now, there's, I guess, a rumor going around that Netflix may be banned in Texas, which is the state's right. It's, you know, the state legislation, if they get the votes and the people want it banned. I mean, sure, people can always use, you know, a VPN to get around it. That's fine. But what people seem to be forgetting is that when you do forced measures like that, we've seen it again with the lockdowns. When you do forced measures, you're going to have very, very verbal, harsh resistance against it. And you have to be really, really careful how you approach this, because if you tell people that Netflix is a no-go because we say it is, then you're going to get people who don't understand, particularly, people who are too young, like little kids right now who watch their shows on Netflix. They're not going to understand why they don't have Netflix anymore, like why their parents can't have it anymore. And so they'll grow up with perhaps that resentment. But if it gets explained, so this is where it has to be really careful. Be like, this is the show that banned Netflix because Netflix refused to do this, 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 and this. Because this is how politics works. You only give a portion of the story or half of the story. You get a reaction from people, one way or the other. You'll get oh my gosh, that's so unjust, that's so unfair, the state overstepped its bounds, and we need to fight back and strip them of this power. In a lot of cases, that's fair, that's probably true. But the other side of this is, well, it's to keep companies from this type of power. And then you get into the free market versus government versus political debate. So this is where it has the risk of getting lost. So if people can focus in on this and the politicians don't act like politicians and take this further, this has the potential to do a lot of good. And when it comes to protecting kids, I am all for it. The SB 145 out in California needs to be struck down, stripped, and Gavin Newsom needs to be kicked out. Like, his recall better go through. That's all I have to say. But that's the fine line that you walk. And so I think Texas is going to do a pretty good job of keeping it very acute, very focused on Netflix and cuties and all of those things. But I am just concerned about the precedent that this may set. Not that if there's more films like this with children in it being exploited this way, go for it. Like, go for the jugular, take them all out. I'm fine with that. But, we don't like what we're seeing censorship-wise from Hollywood itself. They're showing only one point of view. Actors are only allowed to espouse one point of view. They're only allowed to think a certain way. But that's Hollywood. That's the free market doing it. People have other places they can go. They've got Pureflix and Quibbly and Minnow and like all of these other streaming services that are available to them with different shows that maybe aren't as big of a budget, but are still pretty decent shows, when you cut right to the quick. But when the government gets involved, now you have past that point where it's now in the state's power, and the state doesn't like to give power back, generally speaking.
No.
So that's why I say we need to be really careful how we approach this, because if the language gets too broad, now the government is going to be able to censor and edit art. I mean, the Oscars about, like, look at the outrage that happened with the Oscars when they released that whole, if you won an Oscar, you need to fill out this checklist in your film.
Yep.
Right?
Well, hell, they're hiring people that way too. All of the staff, all of the panels, the judges, the people that are going to be actually on the show, all of that is now, you have to fill these boxes out. And if you can't, you're not going to be a part of it.
Exactly. And so, like, people have tuned out of the Oscars because they've had the Oscars, and then we make fun of them. And it's great because they are the butt of their own joke and they don't even realize it. But, like I said, when the government does that, if the government comes in and says you will have this or you won't have this in your film, you are getting into very, very dangerous waters. So I think that this Netflix indictment is a great thing. I think that any film that is like this piece of trash needs to burn in the trash, and I will light that dumpster fire and make s'mores off of it.
Yes,
absolutely. But I do caution anybody who thinks that we just need to watch other states who are going to ride Texas's coattails. Like I said, I don't see Texas taking it that far because Texans love barbecue and freedom. Like, that's Texas. And so I don't see Texas taking it further, but I do see a blue state looking at this and going, well, this has set a precedent, and now we can go after this right-leaning Christian film that we don't like, and, we can say that it's pushing a harmful agenda because of X, Y, and Z. So you always, always, always have to be very careful about that, which is why I appreciated how this was worded. it's based off of an already existing law. They're not trying to create legislation around the situation. They are doing what needs to be done with laws that are already existing. And like I said, if they stick within that realm, and I believe Texas will, then, you know, I will find a way to personally fund this whole entire takedown of Netflix. I'm all for it. And we just have to be very cautious going forward that other politicians who are not as not even virtuous, because I don't know these, I like all the politicians that brought these forward, everybody makes mistakes, everybody's got skeletons in their closet. I'm not saying that these people are virtuous. They just have a soul, and they genuinely care about these kids that were being exploited and the message that it's sending across to kids who may stumble upon this because, oh, by the way, kids have easy access to Netflix and can watch this film. Like, just stumble upon it and be like, oh, what's this? Or ooh, you know, like, they're throwing what looks to be, I don't know, crochet paper, like whatever it is. I know they're actually throwing lingerie, but a kid's going to look at that and be like, oh, they have shopping bags. Is this a movie about shopping? You know what I mean? So There's always that danger that a minor is going to come across this because Netflix doesn't have a separate, you can put up parental controls, but let's be real, kids can get around those things. I know this because my kids do. But you know, that's why you always have to be vigilant on where you have your viewing devices. And that's why my kids don't have tablets or phones or TVs in their room or anything. Like, they have nothing like that. We have our family TV and we have our family computer. I mean, some people think that that's too strict. Some people think that's weird. I really don't care. Like, they're my children, and I'm going to protect them from this disgusting world as long as I can. I'm going to inform them about it and let them know there's bad things out there. But as far as actually having to expose them to it, to let them know it's bad, that's an invalid argument because, just like we said, you don't need to see child exploitation to know that child exploitation is bad. Likewise, my children don't need to watch these girls shake their butts for me to be like, don't ever do that.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. No. You have made wonderful points. Thank you so very, very much for being here. Lady Gravemaster, thank you. You have made more intellectual points against this than I did in the first half hour. You did in the first 5 minutes. Thank you so very much. Because, you know, I get upset about this. I see this. Yeah. Someone earlier mentioned, before we get out of here, that in the prison system, they keep them in a certain wing. Let me tell you something. Some of the ones I went to, 98% sex offender rate. 98% of the population. Do you know what the other 2% was? Those were people that worked. They worked in the laundry. They worked at night. They were trustees that got to work. You see these people in the prison system, they can't be trustees because they don't qualify. So they had an entire prisons dedicated to just these people. And the other percentage that was in there with them are people that had to work there. They're offenders that had to work and do laundry and clean up and wash the showers and on and on and on. So it's not just that they have their own little section in a prison. Some of these prisons are completely filled with this.
Makes sense because, I mean, we all know what happens to those people who go to Gen Pop in a prison that's not full of other sex offenders. Don't last for good reason. Like, it should tell you something when, like, murderers and thieves hate you so much that they look at you as this entirely other type of evil.
Yeah.
I remember, I can't remember who gave the interview, but he was a serial killer. He killed, I think, like 6 or 7 people before he got caught. And he claims that there were more. I don't know. He was a sick, sick individual. But in one of my sociology courses, they did show that stint of the interview, and he said that he only ever killed bad people, and when it was one of the types of people that he killed came to his he called it his town. He called the prison his town. They didn't last the night. And the guy went after sexual assault. Like, he went after child rape. Like, I can't say that word on here, but you know what I mean. He went after people. Those were the people that he killed.
Yeah.
And so it was supposed to be, like, the question being posed by the sociology professor was, was this man in the right? Like, was he as evil as the evil he was fighting, or was he serving justice? And I always found it interesting that that's how people view this. They're like, oh, it's vigilantism. It's wrong. It's outside the law. He's a criminal. He killed all these people. When you hear about some of the people that he killed, like, one of the people that he killed sexually assaulted and abused over 100 girls under the age of 5. I don't know. I don't know what that man's soul is made of. But I do know that his convictions are really strong. And I said that I actually found him, as a terrifying force, not good or evil. He made a choice. He decided that he was going to take these people out, and he stuck to it. And that's terrifying. Like, serial killers are just a whole other ball of crazy. And the fact that they continue to do it lets you know generally that something is off with them. So for this man to continue to stick through it, I saw him more as a terrifying force that he believed he was using for good. So I don't think that makes him good, and I don't think that makes him bad. I think that makes him a tool for a certain outcome, and he just decided that he was going to be in charge of how he wielded that. I got an F for that paper, by the way, because apparently I was supposed to pick one or the other. But you
should have got a bonus. You should have got a bonus for original thinking. That's what you should have gotten. I've been right there. I've been right there. I've gotten those Fs because I didn't want to have an outlook on a certain political side. And no, that sucks. You have come up, you have worked within the confines of what you were asked to do, but you came up with an original outcome that's free thinking. And they, for whatever reason, certain professors just don't like that.
Nope. Free thought is dangerous.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just intriguing to think that, because murder is wrong, murder is bad, murder is evil. But so to juxtapose that next to these type of people, I mean, I really have very little issue with those type of people dying, however it may be. Like, I don't generally have an issue with that. And people are like, oh, well, you don't want to sink to their level. And I'm like, no, definitely not on their level. Just don't care if they live or die. Apathy is a real thing. Yeah, but thank you so much for having me on, Loki. I know I went off on several tangents.
No. See, that is exactly why I asked you to come, because when you go off on a tangent, Lady Gravemaster, you go off on a tangent, and we love going off on tangents here on Mornings of Mischief in the Morning. So thank you so very much. Thank you for coming on here, and thank you for talking with us, and thank you for giving us your perspective on all of this. And I completely wholeheartedly agree with you on everything you said. I do. And especially what you said about Texas. It's a good thing, but it has to be tempered with knowledge and experience and intelligence, because like you said, if it swings too far, you've got them controlling every form of entertainment, everything we disseminate, and all that has to do is get into the wrong hands, and then you've got a giant cluster. So thank you.
Yeah, that's why precedent's it's a two-edged sword, but it has to be done. So
thank you, everyone. Thank you Thank you, chat. Thank you so very much. Thank you for watching us and continuing to hang with us. 24 minutes past what I usually go if I go an hour. So thank you. And please, Lady Gravemaster, anytime you would like to come on and talk, you are more than welcome to come on and talk. I would love to have you on again. You know I do. Thank you.
Thank you for having me again, Loki. It was a pleasure.
It is. Everyone, we will be back tonight at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time for a Doom game stream. Until then, everyone have a great morning. Do not forget the Valkyries are running late today. They have got a show coming up at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Do not miss it. Everyone have a great day, and we will catch you all next time.